Hello and welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about Survive the Hunt 11 and the various goings-on that took place. Now, first of all, I like starting these with a little bit of a car chase. I changed it slightly. Last time around I used a Devastate 8, which was very, very quick. And I thought going to the Hot Ring Sabre, the idea for the start chase was to give me, a decent car for this. Don't want to be caught in the first couple of minutes of this. I was going to be a decent car, have a little bit of a chase, have to try and then go back to blending in and so on, to make it a little bit more of a frantic start. The Devastate 8 was just far too quick. Devastate 8 was ridiculously fast. I figured the Hot Ring would be a little bit better balanced. It was a bit. The Hot Ring's still quite quick. I think helped slightly by being nighttime with this. It might have been a little bit of a different story had we been trying to run away in the day. At night, certainly with the back of the car dark, it could just be that little bit more difficult to keep track of. Now, the cars giving chase did a fairly good, or a couple of them did a fairly good job. I think one of them might have had some controller, something was going on with that. It kind of set off briefly and then got stuck and didn't seem to move. It has now got moving again here. The other two were, I think, were trying to cut me off at this particular part, as you can see on the map. They were hoping I was going to double back on myself. I didn't. And then we were just really using the straight line speed of the Hot Ring. Now, I didn't really know where they were in relation to me at this point. The brief glances back I can take aren't really sufficient to tell me too much, because they could still... I need to look where I'm going. We're going very quickly at this stage. There's a lot of street furniture, there's a lot of cars. I need to be able to see where I'm going, and you can't spend enough time looking back to see where they are. You've only got a half second, if that, blink behind to see is there a car there, yes or no, and to try and determine. So it's kind of down to guesswork and judgment as to when I reckon I've got far enough away, and it was around this point at which I'm just out of sight. They knew the rough direction I was travelling in, but I was too far ahead of them. They couldn't have seen if I'd taken a turn somewhere. One of them goes to check the beach, because the last couple of times I'd been wanting to head down that way. There's a big car park there. It's kind of easy to hide a car. So one of them went down there, and the rest don't really know. They kind of think I was heading along sort of vaguely north-ish, but in the end, yeah, it wasn't particularly difficult for the Hot Ring to find a way to get away. And once I was up in kind of this hills area, they were just too far back, and I'd kind of figured by now, it was safe to go and swap a vehicle. For a little while, not too much happened. We were driving around in the Felon. Not a bad choice of car. The Felon, a fairly quick vehicle, fairly strong vehicle, and one that most people won't take a second look at, particularly, you drive something like an Infernus or a Bullet, they do sometimes spawn. They always tend to get checked. Now, I think we were seeing a little bit from the hunters. You can kind of see it going on with the map, if you like. There were quite a few hunters that were working in pairs or in teams. We saw this in Survive the Hunt 10. It's kind of what eventually got me killed in that one. But we were seeing them kind of sticking in pairs. Now, the reason for this is if they do spot me while they're together, it's much easier to hunt me down. As we see a pair of them shoot through there. We can see it at all different sort of corners of the map and so on. And they were doing this early on. They spread out more in the latter stages, because when you do start hunting in packs, yes, it's easier to catch me if you find me. But you don't cover anywhere near as much ground, because, well, you're in the same place. So actually managing to spot my car, as you saw, they shot past me there at the set of lights, actually managing to spot my car is not all that easy. Oh, well, I forgot to say at the start of this, of course, my dot on the map is the blinking one. That is mine. Now, one of the most bizarre incidents of all of this is what went on down by the kind of canals area. I'm still not quite sure what happened here. Okay, so we're minding our own business. Nothing really untoward. There is a player behind us that I don't clock. I didn't realise this was a player until watching the map. But there is a player in traffic. At the back of the other lane of cars, there is a player vehicle. I don't quite know what their plan is, but that is they are sat in the traffic. Now, I'm just parked up following this road, as you would expect. And this is where we get an AI start freaking out. I don't know why. Because the AI is gesticulating at the player, as in the grey, is it tailgater or something? Saloon car of some description back there. The AI is freaking out at them for some reason. I don't know whether the AI wanted to be in that lane or something. Now, at this point, I've seen that weird action going on, and I'm like, I'm not sure. So we'll head down this part. The player car just drives on straight, has no real knowledge of what's going on. And we're now down this kind of bumpy canal path. There's another player vehicle ahead of me that is now kind of just left or just turning out of here. And there's another player vehicle that is, I think, at the back, kind of heading around the entrance to the canals. We're quite a long way from anybody at this stage. We're a decent distance away from anybody. There are a couple of hunters. As you can see, also, the hunters on our side spreading out a little bit more. There are a couple of hunters around here, but there's no explosions, there's no gunshots, as far as I'm aware, and everybody behind me freaks out, and everyone in front of me freaks out. And I still don't know what set that off. I'm lucky because if there had been someone paying attention at the right time, that could have been problematic. We also, as we leave here, we have our first run-in with a Hummer that drives off past, and somehow, like, everyone freaked out and then everyone went back to normal within a corner. It's very weird, and I think the Hummer just saw a bunch of cars leave this area and was curious, but nothing was really standing out. So, still none the wiser. Still none the wiser as to what on earth upset all the AI vehicles there. So yeah, there were players vaguely around, but nothing really all that much. And by this point, the Hummer had seen something else it had gone to look at and was in a completely different part of the map. So, we got away with what was a quite risky situation without too much trouble. And again, I mean, the way that as the way the GTA 5 is, the way that the grids are, you know, if the car takes the earlier turn, and you kind of end up almost running into each other quite easily again. A player car behind me went into the petrol station, not realising I was there. The Hummer I think it was the Hummer anyway, was heading towards me, turned around and went back the other way, and we again managed to avoid detection. We again managed to stay away from just about everything. Once more, we ended up at the airport. We got a ding on our car, an AI car crashed into us, so I needed to swap a vehicle. And for a second time, the airport was completely dead. I don't actually know if I really saw anybody over this part of the map. They did get a couple of helicopters at some point, but I think even those were got from the like harbour area rather than down at the airport. It turns out, and I'm going to say this now, and I know next time we do one of these it won't be the case, but turns out airport, pretty bloody safe place to change car. I go on about saying how it can be dangerous, and it can be because it's kind of separate little island almost, and there isn't that much in the way of ways in and out, but it's also apparently not a place that's checked very often. Well, I think that there is a car with a bounty, a player with a bounty going across the bridge. That's the closest I really saw anything get to the airport, certainly if I was down this way. So, yeah, turned out airport was quite a safe place for car changing. Whether it will be in future or not, I don't know. I'm probably not going to use it next time, that's for sure. So, we swapped cars, everything was going fine. Another AI crashed into the back of my Sultan. This is the luckiest I think I've been. This is the luckiest I am aware of having been in Survive the Hunt. Okay, so the back of my car is dented. We've seen before that sometimes damage sinks funny on different people's cars. I know I need to get a new car, but I don't want to get something slow. You know, the Sultan's a very good car, and I want to keep getting something decent. Now, we spot a black Sultan driving up, and I was pondering going to steal the car while sat at this light. I'm glad I didn't. If I did, we would have been in trouble, because behind that truck, you just see the nose poke out, was the Hummer. Now, the Hummer and the Fusillade, you see the black Fusillade has just pulled out as well, were following me at this stage, and I didn't know this. I didn't know this at all, and they were busy. They were busy being distracted by the junction. At this point, I jump out of my car, leave my car in the traffic, jump in the Sultan, kick the guy out of the car, get going, and somehow, despite them only being one intersection behind, they didn't notice. They didn't notice at all, and I think I get lucky as well, because my Sultan was parked in traffic, and the traffic was at a stoplight. They didn't notice that there was an abandoned car there, plus they might not have even noticed or thought much about it, because the AI are doing weird things. We saw so many weird occurrences from the AI, it makes trying to blend in with them. It's sometimes easier, because they occasionally just freak out and confuse the hunters. And yeah, we'd swapped cars. There was a tiny window to swap a car there and not get spotted, and somehow I managed to do it perfectly without realising. I didn't realise up until that Fusillade got behind me that there was a player cars there, and there were 3 of them around that at one point. I was unbelievably lucky. Like 5 seconds either way, and I would have got sorted. If I'd gone and ran and jumped and nicked the car, and this is something that I've seen people say, why don't I change cars in the middle of the road more often and so on. Yes, it is quick. However, this was in a test, or this was a previous one, like a video that we were doing. I ended up on foot at one point trying to get a car. Guess what? Hunter just comes over the crest of the hill with a fire truck and spots you carjacking. Yeah, it's a quick animation. a quickish animation. However, it's such a bleeding obvious one, and so many times you get spotted. Just so many times that you get seen doing this. In my case, yes, I got very, very lucky in getting away. Might have almost forgotten that you can't get out of the golf course going in that way. Yeah, it's so dangerous to be swapping cars in the middle of the street. We saw it. Hell, when we saw it when I did Hunt the Survivors, we found somebody because they were the way they were carjacking, bikejacking somebody in the middle of the road. It's just a massive risk that you don't particularly want to be taking. Now, getting into a car like the Oracle in this particular one, or getting into cars like the Sultan, for example, is a little bit safer because once you've got in that car, you've got speed. The Oracle, quick. The Sultan, very, very quick. The Sultan, one of the best cars. Now, the Sultan is probably the best car for being able to blend in, but being able to run very far, very quickly. Yeah, the Oracle is not bad. The Felon's not bad. The Oracle isn't terrible either if you can get one. Sentinel's okay. So, yeah, swapping cars is very, very dangerous. Swapping cars is unbelievably dangerous in this one, and I got lucky. Either way, we got the Black Sultan, we got away from that particular area, we were busy cruising around and minding our own business. We did, yeah, happen to keep running into a Hummer. I think part of the reason why it was very obvious when we ran into Hummer because it was distinctive. It had a livery on it as opposed to just being a standard Hummer. We drove past plenty of other cars. It's just that one was the one that you noticed around the place. Again, this is another area that was a little more dangerous watching it back and looking at the map than I actually realised at the time. I mean, we knew the Hummer was at the side of the road, but there were a few vehicles around here. And you can see how they're kind of a lot more spread out than they had been early on. They did have a couple of helicopters. The helicopters didn't really seem to help much here. The helicopters didn't really seem to be particularly helping in trying to find my car, or in the latter chase. The helicopters just weren't quite able to see. I think it didn't help that it was nighttime when we got into any chases. The helicopters couldn't keep up, or couldn't really follow quite as easily. Whereas in the daylight, they might have been more useful. Either way, there were a few cars up around by me, and this is where I started to get mildly concerned about the fusillade that was behind us, and kind of its goings on. In previous Survive the Hunts, I probably would have run sooner. I am more experienced with this, and Fusillade had no idea. Fusillade had absolutely no idea that I was driving around here in a Sultan. I was helped, I think, at times by traffic lights being quite kind to me through there. I didn't have to go on the brakes. There's always a risk that when you slow the car down with GTA 5 kind of having an auto-reverse, when you're trying to slow the car down neatly, it's sometimes easy to accidentally ping the reverse lights on. That would have got me seen. That would have alerted the Fusillade. Fusillade buggered off up a turning, and I thought, that was gone. That wasn't an immediate worry. But yeah, there were still kind of some cars around here. I think at this stage, I wasn't really sure if they were cottoning on to me or not, and I figured that the safest thing to be doing was once you get to a reasonable opportunity to run away. And this is always the tough part, is how long do you... Because, yeah, I can kind of just see goings on, and it's... If I bolt, they're going to know it's me. Guaranteed. If I don't bolt, and they have been planning... If they are trying to get out of the cars, they are trying to call cars. You can see they weren't, because the cars were now busy heading south at the moment. There were a few around here, but there were cars now heading down south. Yeah, if they do manage to call more vehicles in, it's very difficult to get away. When they've got 8 cars around the rough area you are, that's so tough. So I ended up waiting until I was like a corner away, and then bolted out the other side, and they weren't looking for me. They were not all that fussed at all about where I was. They were just, kind of driving along the roads on their own, trying to spot things. And because I'd waited until I got around, completely out of line of sight, and they weren't actually sending cars up this way, it didn't really matter. Now, you might wonder, why didn't I change out of the Sultan if I thought this car might have been burnt? Well, first of all, I didn't know if it had or not. The Sultan... I had shot off, but Black Sultans were also quite common at the end of the day as well, which did help me. And second of all, the Sultan is bloody quick. I didn't really want to change into something else because I knew the Sultan would still give me a good advantage. There's a lot of them around. Maybe they'll be checking every single one of them, but if they do, I want to have the car that will get away from them because they've got similar vehicles. And by this stage, we were actually starting to get quite late in the chase, and Scotty, who was in charge of the map recording, which I'm always greatly appreciative of, was giving the hunters the tiniest of clues. And when I say that, the clue that he gave them was the first letter of the player that was closest to me at the time. I think he did it a couple of times throughout the thing, which is how we ended up with some now cars heading a little bit towards the north, because it was Impega, who was driving the Hummer, that was closest to me most of the time. Just coincidentally. But I mean, that just gives a very, very rough idea, because I'm moving, Impega's moving, all the vehicles are moving. So that's why we start to see some more vehicles up towards the north part of the map. You know, there's a helicopter now up in the hills. There's a few cars wandering around there as I'm leaving the hills. So, yeah, I did end up right to the very, very top of my area in this one. So now there are vehicles kind of heading... They can't seem to fire me up there. They're sort of heading back. And again, this is the second time that I have been spotted. Well, I say I've been spotted. I haven't been spotted. It was one of the vehicles wanted, or one of the drivers wanted a new Sultan. They wanted a new car. Theirs had been a little bit battered. I don't think it was showing battered on my screen, but they wanted a new Sultan, and I happened to be in one. It's just, as I say, a bit of bad luck. It's the wrong place, wrong time for me here. As they're looking for a new car, they've not seen anything interesting heading that way. They remember, there was a Sultan we just drove past, so they back up to get it. Now, I'm not going to risk... I'm not going to wait for this in the slightest. As soon as I see what's going to happen, we're gonna bolt. I get a big advantage. One of them's out of a car, the other one's in a Hummer. In fact, initially they weren't even sure it was me that had ran them over. They weren't sure if it wasn't just an AI that had wanted to drive around a car. It's not exactly uncommon for the AIs to freak out and the AIs to go around, but they do decide to give chase. It would be funny if it had been an AI that had freaked out and run away and got them all chasing down that way. We've seen it before. In this instant, though, they were indeed correct. One of them tried to torpedo their way onto the motorway. Not much use. And this is where the Sultan speed. This is why I stayed in a Sultan, because the speed is pretty bloody good down here. The Hummer isn't going to match us. The Hummer can't keep up. Now, there was an F620 that was parked on the slip road, kind of waiting for me to go past, trying to make life difficult. I say trying to make life difficult, trying to potentially hit into me if I was a little close to the inside and whatnot. But that can't get up to speed quick enough. And the problem is, if they are up to speed and I come barreling past, or if they're kind of rolling along trying to pick up speed ahead of me, I'm just going to slam on the brakes and drive up the slip road. So it was a difficult game. I mean, they had a lot of cars, and this is one of those, they got a lot of cars around me very quickly. Now, I didn't realise this during the actual... The helicopters were having trouble finding where the hell I was. And again, because it was now starting to get dark, it was getting difficult for the helicopters to be much use. They had a lot of cars around me, but they didn't have very many cars with a good line of sight on me. I think at this point a Prius police car is about the only one that had a good line of sight. The Hummer comes up the slip road and is behind me briefly, but again it's got to make a turn, it's got to get accelerated, and I'm bolting in a very, very quick sports car. Certainly a quick sports car compared to what we are running up against. A Fusillade actually ends up... Again, it's kind of interesting. It's fascinating watching the map and seeing where cars come from. A Fusillade ends up behind me. That Fusillade hadn't really been tailing me. It had just got lucky and had ended up being spat out in the right position. I'd still really hoped a bunch of cars were going to go flying and miss that turning. Sadly, it's not the case. They did all manage to make their way down here. But now we're down to a couple of cars directly... Well, there's only really one car directly behind me. There's another one a little further back, maybe just got a line of sight. Unfortunately, I think you get a phone call sometimes in the house, which is why the map goes a bit funky at some point. Yeah, we've got it down to basically two cars vaguely in line of sight of me. That's the power of the Sultan. That's the speed that you get from the Sultan. The other ones don't really know where I am. They're struggling to get manoeuvred basically in a position to give chase, and I'm already getting a few turns away. Now, again, another common thing is people ask, why don't I just, you get around a couple of corners, lose line of sight, and dive in an alleyway? You can do it. It's very, very risky, and as you can see here, wouldn't work. Because you get round a couple of corners, dive in an alleyway, and park your car there. They're not just going to go sailing past and keep going straight on. Unlikely, certainly, especially when you've got the numbers that are chasing. They'll have lost line of sight on me. The last known location was the bit where you've parked your car in an alleyway. Someone's going to search it. You can see how many cars are swarming around the area that I was just in. My best bet is to keep running, and I've got to keep going. I've got to try to go as far as I can here. And I can't really look... It's still, this whole difficult thing is I can't look back. It's easy looking at the mini-map and the map we have on the screen here. I can't look back. I can't see where the cars are because I'm going flat out through the city. I only get a very brief second, and often that brief second they are perhaps directly behind me, but they may well see what way I've gone. However, yeah, by now they're really starting to struggle. By now they know roughly the direction I'm heading in. They know roughly the direction I was last seen, perhaps. but they are struggling to really keep up. And I get very lucky here, because I end up going down towards the pier and abandoning my car. You see here, I was going to be intercepted by somebody who made a turn down one of the pedestrianised roads. Had they not, I would not have been able to do what I did. If they'd keep going straight, they would have seen me fly past at the bottom, and they would have been back chasing me. As it was, they went down one of the pedestrianised areas and were off in the wrong place. Then I go and search the canals, see if I was down there, and I got lucky. There were a few vehicles now sort of, again, clustered around the centre of the map, running about. I think my move to the car park, to the beach, was a bit silly. Really. We saw it at the start. Someone immediately thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to go check the beach, because that's where he's got cars before. And I think what ended up getting me in trouble here is I don't know how someone drove past and didn't see me prattling around. I think they might have seen me prattling around as well. They came back. But there's someone up on the top bit of the pier as well. I didn't realise how many cars were around here, and the helicopter starts coming over. I was very lucky that enough weren't paying attention, and also there's a reason why I got in a comet, basically. There was a lot of vehicles. A lot of vehicles went on the pier, on the upper part of the pier, thinking I'd go to the car park there to find a vehicle. Because I can guarantee there'll be vehicles in a car park on that part, which is why I'll head down that bit. And yeah, I got lucky in that I could get in a comet. That's again another very, very quick car compared to what we're being chased by. I was a bit distracted trying to get rid of a wanted level, which I perhaps shouldn't been. Again, I get lucky down this part because I should have gone left at that turning that we just blew past. I end up going down a dead end, which isn't very clever. I wanted to have gone left, but I didn't, and thankfully for me, one of the hunters thought I'd gone left. One of the hunters thought they'd seen my car shoot off down that direction, and as you can see, they're all streaming off down that way now, and I get to go on the beach. A couple of them went a different way, just in case, and one of the helicopters, I'm surprised, didn't see a car whizzing around on the beach, but is perhaps a bit too far away now, and again, it's night time, it's looking in the wrong direction. As you can see, all the hunters have gone completely the wrong path, trying to find me, and that gives me a huge opportunity. It gives me a huge break, because yeah, I'm now on the beach, and we're back to having cars all driving away from me. I'm in the middle of nowhere. So, me actually forgetting to take the, well, me not taking the turning that I would have wanted to, me almost driving myself into a dead end, helped amazingly, weirdly, kind of saved me. Because now they've gone on that road, and they've realised I'm not there. A few have actually shot off down to the airport now, I presume, to check if I'd gone there to perhaps swap cars, but by this time it's too late. The time's already ticked over, and that's how we did it. Some luck. There's always some luck involved in these. There's some luck involved in them happening to try and steal my car, to initiate a chase. There was some luck from me. I really should have been spotted when I was messing around with those Sultans. I don't know how I got away with that one. But that is the way it goes. And me making a goof at the end actually made my getaway a little easier. I'll be honest, even if I had taken the left, I had so much speed in that Comet, I think it would be unlikely, unless I crashed it, it would be unlikely somebody would have been able to stop me before the end of it. And by now, well, you can see the hunters are now back to kind of being spread out. No one really knows where I am. We're back on the motorway, and there's no problem. In fact, there is a car. I think someone found possibly my Comet in the car park at the end there, and you know, Sultan bouncing down, but doesn't realise I'm in the Banshee by now. And yeah, we were free. It was a fun survive the hunt. We got away. We managed to sneak our way out to a victory. Which the first victory here, which is always nice. I have some ideas going forward with Survive the Hunt, how we're going to, say, mix things up a little bit, because a combination of AIs being goofy, me holding my nerve better when we have vehicles around us, it makes it very, very difficult. It's come down to, at least 2 out of 3 has come down to someone trying to carjack me. That's how we've been given away. So, yeah, we've got a victory. We've got some ideas, though, going forward as to what we might see from future Survive the Hunts. I hope you have enjoyed this little insight as to how things went down. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching. Until next time, a goodbye.